The Trump administration continues to uphold its promise for large-scale reductions. However, they are not considering how close you may be to retirement. So if you are a federal employee, you have been given a buyout option, or you are just figuring out how in the heck you to best navigate this current space that you are in, Abe is here to help you understand just a little bit better. We're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into what's going on and what federal employees, particularly focusing on those that you work with, Abe, retirees and those already in retirement, their options and what steps they need to be taking, what they need to be thinking about right now. I'm Heather Branch. This is Abe Abish, financial advisor, retirement planner, founder of Abish Financial Services, and also author, by the way, speaking of questions that so many of us have, The Retirement Mountain, The 7 Steps to a Long-Lasting Retirement is Abe's book. A little over 90 pages, easy for you to read if you are looking for education. Abe is looking to share his knowledge with you. So you can go to our website, theretirementkey.com, and click on the media tab there and choose the book selection to see. You can click on the Amazon link to buy the book, or if you schedule an appointment, we can give you a free copy of the book. Lots of ways to access that information there. But Abe, let's talk about this situation happening right here in your neighborhood in the D.C. area not for all, obviously federal employees all over the country, but just a very dense population of federal employees here in Northern Virginia. And as we continue to see the Trump administration more and more, because what you and I were saying before we were recording is this idea of, I think that maybe President Trump and Elon Musk and the Doge thought this would be a little bit simpler and would happen a little bit faster. And the way I see it's unrolling, I feel like it's going to last a while. It's going to keep kind of rolling out.
Yeah, it could be most of 2025. We'll have to see.
Yeah, it just depends on how they figure stuff out, and as they continue to unpack things and uncover things.
Working their way through departments.
Thousands of government workers have already been fired and or laid off. And at least from what we're hearing from the White House, as we were just saying, we can only expect to see more of this to come, at least it seems. Many government employees are facing uncertainties. And for the folks that you work with, Abe, close to or in retirement, this is the last thing in the world they want to be worrying about, financial uncertainty for the future. So whether they took the buyout or stayed in their role, how are you able to help folks, federal employees, navigate this current space?
Yeah, great question, Heather. And there's been so much activity here, the last couple months with just, going through all these government departments and kind of trying to find waste and excess spending and all of that. And while I'm a big fan, obviously, of not abusing money and not spending more than we need to as a country, I also definitely personally feel for a lot of people who are just sometimes given a couple hours to clean off their desk, and sometimes a little bit longer than that, but have to make decisions that maybe they weren't planning on. Now, a lot of people were already planning on retiring pretty soon. So we'll talk about a few examples here. We've met with probably somewhere between at least 10 to 20 families here in just the last week or two where this has come up. And they're like, if we're presented with this option, or we have been presented with this option, what should we do? Which options should we take? And should we take the option, or should we continue working? Right. Yeah. And what it's come down to for a lot of people is if you were planning, it's specifically talking about this buyout package that was offered to 2 million federal employees.
It wasn't offered to all federal employees, but a lot of them. Yeah.
Right. And 75 to 80,000 employees have taken the offer. A lot of the conversation has been, Heather, Mr. Klein, if you were planning on working 2 to 3 years or longer, then you might not want to take the option, right? Because that's 2, 3, 4, 5 years or more of wage that you're going to lose, of savings that you're going to lose that would have otherwise gone into your TSP, of healthcare benefits that you would have continued to have, of pension increases, because the longer you work and the more money you make, the higher your pension goes up, right? The amount of time, it's based on time and service and wage. But also, Mr. Klein, if you were planning on retiring in like the next year or two, especially if you were planning on retiring in a year or less, with the buyout, a lot of the buyout options, they were going to pay employees through like September, pay them for 7 or 8 months without even having to work for the most part. And if you were planning on retiring at the end of 2025 or early into 2026, it's a serious decision to make. Some of our clients, some of our potential clients that we've talked to about it, Heather, will just say, you know what, thanks for all the information. This is super helpful. I'm going to continue to work because I'm not ready to retire yet. I want to retire on my terms, right? And a lot of people have said, well, I was going to retire in December of 2025 anyways. Why
Right.
wouldn't I take the option
Yeah.
to retire without even having to work
Yeah.
through September or October of 2025? So it's been
that's happened to people you've spoken with?
it has numerous, and it's been
Okay.
an absolute no-brainer for a lot
Sure.
of people. And then going through all of the options, we'll talk about some specifics.
Yeah.
There's 3 options I want to talk about on this podcast. Number 1, understanding the pension, the pros and cons
Okay.
of taking a buyout package or being forced to retire early versus continuing to work, the pension, the TSP, and then healthcare options. So let's start with the pension.
Yep.
Pension payouts may not be what you anticipated if you're going to be retiring a year, 3-5 years before you thought you were, right?
Okay.
Because if you have 3 to 5 years in front of you of continued wage and time and service, that pension is going to go up, right? It's based on the high 3 years of income and salary. And then there's factor numbers that they apply to that calculation based on how long you have worked for the government.
Okay.
So you need to understand that if you take the package now or are forced to retire, your pension could be lower and would be lower than had you continued to work another handful of years. Then in terms of the pension, federal pension, you can choose a single life option. You can choose a survivor option. If you're married, the survivor option is the option that almost everyone chooses. I believe it's a 55% survivor benefit payout. That's pretty standard. That's typically what we see. Next in line, you've got TSPs, the Thrift Savings Plan, which is the quote unquote 401k for all federal employees, even the military. If you take a buyout package option and you're again retiring sooner than you thought, that's less money being put away. That's less matching contribution. There's up to a 5% match on the TSP for civilian, not military, but civilian federal employees, where they will match 100% of your contributions up to 3%, and 50% of your contributions up to 5%. 100% up to 3%. The 4th and 5th percent are at 50%, which means they're getting a full free 4% match.
Okay.
You will lose out on contributions to the TSP. You'll lose out on the matching contributions from your employer, the federal government.
Yeah.
If you retire early. If you continue to work, on the other hand, you'll continue to have all that money that's being socked away into the TSP, and you'll have more money saved.
Okay.
But what would the difference in working 1 more year make, 2 more years make? Maybe you can save another 50, 60, maybe even another $100,000. But if you already have $2 million, $3 million, $4 million saved, does $50,000 to $100,000 in additional savings really matter? It may not matter.
Okay.
Then with the TSP, if you've been laid off or have taken a buyout package option, you are now eligible, and also if you're 59 and a half or older, to roll over part or all of your TSP, thrift savings plan, into an IRA of your choice on any platform. It could be Fidelity, Charles Schwab. It could be plenty of other platforms. You could roll that over. And if you have money in the pre-tax side of the TSP, it can be rolled over into a traditional IRA without tax or penalty. If you have money in the Roth TSP, it can be rolled over into a Roth IRA at Schwab, Fidelity, or other platforms. You can typically do that through a phone call to the TSP. When we're working with somebody and helping somebody with their retirement plan, Heather, we do this for the client. The client's on the phone.
Got it.
The TSP needs to verify the client's identity with their social security numbers and so forth, but we're on the phone helping our clients through this process because this is new to them. All they've ever known is socking money away into the TSP, not rolling it over and moving it to another platform.
I only know how to put money in, Abe. I don't know how to get it out.
Yeah, and it can be daunting. Like I have had my money in the TSP for a long time. I'm a little reluctant in moving it out. I know it's kind of safe and secure in the TSP. Now, that all depends on what you're invested in. But there's I think a sense of security a lot of federal employees have that my money's in the government 401k, right? In the government TSP. Yeah. And I know where it is, and I've never had it elsewhere at a Schwab or Fidelity type of place.
Yeah.
A lot of options there when it comes to accessing your TSP, rolling it over. You got to be very careful about how you do it.
Yeah.
You don't want to take any money out for yourself unless you really need it, because if you do, you could have a big tax bill. Finally, health care. If you're not going to be working anymore, you may not have the same healthcare options. You may need to start looking at Medicare supplements if you're at that 65-year-old age mark or older. Can you leave, go work privately, and hop on your spouse's healthcare plan?
Okay.
All kinds of things that come up when it comes to healthcare.
Yeah.
But just know things will change, right? Because you're not an employee anymore with those normal benefits. You'll have healthcare coverage that could continue and extend into retirement, but it might look different. Heather, there are tons of options that have to be considered, and these are we're just scratching the surface, but it typically takes at least 30 minutes to an hour to really get a good understanding of someone's situation when it comes to these buyout options, layoff options, to help someone sift through all these details and all this data to come up with a good plan.
Yeah.
Right. So we just really encourage people that are going through all these changes and all these options available to them to seek out good, sound fiduciary advice. We're a retirement planning firm. We almost only work with people 55 and older that usually have $1 million to $5 million. You don't have to be 55 on the dot to work with us. You don't have to have all the money in the world. It doesn't matter. If you have the questions, we'll try to get the answers to you, give you all the options to help you make sound, intelligent decisions when it comes to your money.
Yeah, because after all, it's just that. It's your money. And unfortunately, the government can and has stepped in and starts forcing you to make decisions maybe you're not prepared to make, but you don't have to sort through it on your own. If anything can be complicated, the government can come in and complicate it further. We can count on them for one thing. But Abe and his team at Abish Financial Services here to help you uncomplicate things, understand what your options are, sort through all of this with you and your spouse, understanding what your options are for your financial future. At the start of this conversation, the last thing that you want in this phase of your life is to have uncertainty about your financial future. So let's get to work helping you understand what your options are. Federal employees, if you are one, or if you know a federal employee, you have somebody in your family or a friend, please be sure to send this podcast their way so that they know that they have somebody that they can turn to for some help in this process. TheRetirementKey.com is our website and where to go to start the conversation. We also have links posted in the show notes, so you can just click there, or again, it's TheRetirementKey.com.